The world, I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. India is hosting US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin for the 5th 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue, talks to focus on Indo-US security cooperation. US says Israel agrees to 4-hour daily humanitarian pauses in northern Gaza to allow civilians to flee. Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel does not seek to govern Gaza, asserts fight will continue until Hamas is eradicated. And in cricket, Afghanistan will face South Africa in the ICC World Cup match today at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. And on to details now. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Delhi on Thursday night primarily to attend the India-US 2+2 Foreign and Defense Ministerial Dialogue. The 2+2 dialogue will take place on Friday. US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has already reached Delhi. The Indian side at the dialogue will be led by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh and External Affairs Minister S. Shankar. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in India's national capital, New Delhi, for the 5th India-US 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue. The 2+2 dialogue will take place on Friday. US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is also in Delhi for the Ministerial Dialogue. The Indian side of the dialogue will be led by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh and External Affairs Minister S. Shankar. And on the 5th India-US 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue, Dr. Mukesh Aghi, President and CEO of the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum, said that Secretary of State Blinken and Defense Secretary Austin will emphasize India's vital relationship with the US, especially in the Middle East, indicating its potential impact on the coastal region.
Well, Secretary Blinken and Secretary of Defense are there while there are a lot of fires burning all across the world. It sends a message that the relationship between India and US is very important, is very critical, and they have to maintain the momentum going forward. India plays a pivotal role, especially in the Middle East. Its relationship with Israel, its relationship with Saudis, UAE, and then India's position supporting Israel while having 200 million Muslims in India. It sends a clear message that India will play a much more pivotal role, especially in the Middle East, and can be a big partner of the United States and Israel and other countries in the region.
Well, as we told you, New Delhi is hosting the 5th edition of the India-US 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue on Friday. The foreign and defense ministers of both the countries will take part in it. The annual dialogue takes place amid the Russia-Ukraine and Israel-Palestinian conflicts. Jessica Taneja gives you a lowdown on it.
Every year, the 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue brings together India's foreign and defense ministers with their US counterparts to address and collaborate on common concerns to enhance and strengthen relationship between the two nations. Over the years, America has offered strong bipartisan support to India. From making it a major defense partner in 2016 to holding Quad meetings at the leaders level. For a non-treaty ally, America has made a significant change in its policy. With India-US trade likely to touch $300 billion in 2026 and 27, the Ministerial Dialogue helps in promoting forums like G20, the Quad, and IPEF, or the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. For America, India is also an important ally for its free and open Indo-Pacific strategy. The 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue has seen some great momentum over the years. The signing of Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement, or the LEMOA, in 2016, the signing of COMCASA, or the Communications Compatibility and Security Agreement, in 2018, along with the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, or the BECA, in 2020. Not only was signing COMCASA and other important pacts in the foundational years a big step, but providing waivers to India from Russia sanctions was a significant advancement in the relationship. In fact, 5 years ago, India was given the strategic trade authorization status for transfers of some dual-use high-technology trade. While these deals are good signs of convergences, looking at the current momentum, further framework for overcoming hurdles on regulation of technology, digital economy, few matters of global governance have also been put in place now. Jessica Taneja for DD India.
Well, the ministers will sit down with their Indian counterparts in New Delhi to discuss crucial aspects of their partnership, spanning security, cooperation and technology collaborations. Benji Haya reports from the US.
Well, these meetings come after a banner year for US-India relations. 2 leader-level engagements, Prime Minister Modi's visit stateside and the G20 summit attended by President Joe Biden. There was a time not long ago when this event would have been one of the biggest diplomatic gatherings of 2023. Major geopolitical developments in past months have reduced its significance slightly, but Secretaries Blinken and Austin are still taking time from their busy globe-trotting duties to make this trip, a sign of Washington's commitment to ties with Delhi. It presents an opportunity to further a roadmap set forth by Modi and Biden earlier this year, establishing a foundation, really, for an ambitious, collaborative agenda. In many ways, the two nations are still feeling their way through the relationship in different areas, commercial, defence, yet in both respects, the US is a major partner of India. And this 2+2 dialogue is a chance to reaffirm that stance, to make advancements practically on deals agreed on manufacturing fighter jets or even space exploration. In addition to the bilateral aspects, it could provide a platform for assessing contemporary tensions regionally in the Indo-Pacific, China, for instance, the threats perceived there, and issues wider still. The US will be looking for like-mindedness in its position to the conflict erupting in the Middle East, that Israel has a right to defend itself, yes, but that it should endeavour to minimise civilian casualties. And the ongoing war in Ukraine too. India still maintains ties, I should say, with Russia. How will the Americans navigate that again as they strive for compatibility in this key friendship? Benji Haya in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Well, on the dialogue, Akshay Dongre joins us live for more. Well, Akshay, the talks are a key platform for advancing the bilateral and global cooperation between the two countries. What might be on the agenda of the talks, and also what will be the optics and the likely outcomes?
Well, if we talk about the agenda of the 2+2 dialogue that is going to take place today, there are certain things that can in fact be predicted as far as the key issues in the region, the global issues, as far as the issues related to the two countries are concerned, they can be discussed. And as far as the global issues are concerned, then clearly the Israel-Hamas conflict is going to be discussed. As far as the ongoing conflict is concerned, it has been more than a month that the conflict is raging on. Over 12,000 people have died. The entire region is of great interest to both of these countries as far as the strategic ties are concerned. India in fact maintains good relations with a lot of countries in the Middle East. It has been one of the key players as far as the Middle East is concerned. And when we talk about the USA, then clearly we don't even have to explain that what are the key interests of the United States of America as far as a stable Middle East is concerned. So that is going to be on the agenda. The second issue is definitely going to be the Ukraine war. It has been more than a year and a half as far as the war has been waging on there. There has been no key, or rather significant peace process that either the US or Russia could initiate as far as the conflict is concerned. So that is one issue that is going to be discussed, because India holds significant influence as far as the politics of Russia, or rather in the Central Asia is concerned. So that is going to be discussed as well. The third point that in fact interests both these countries is about the Indo-Pacific region, that how both of these countries are going to further enhance ties. We have seen that India and US have in fact talked about greater defense cooperation as far as the GE 414 engines are concerned, that India and US can co-manufacture. As far as the Reaper drones are concerned, so all of these issues will certainly be on the agenda. And as far as the prediction of the outcomes are concerned, then we can expect that some key outcomes as far as the enhanced defense cooperation, enhanced diplomatic cooperation by these two countries in solving all of these issues, especially in the Middle East, so that no third party gets a lot of space to in fact meddle or rather create or carve out a space of their own. So that is going to be on the agenda. And China, South China Sea. So there are a lot of issues that are pending that can be discussed and will be discussed.
Right, Akshay, a lot of issues to be discussed. Also, can you tell our viewers about the US ministers' engagements in New Delhi today? What's going to be their itinerary like on Friday today?
Well, first of all, Lloyd Austin will be here, where we are standing right now outside the Sushma Swaraj Bhavan. This is where the key meetings will take place. Lloyd Austin, the Defense Secretary of the US, will be holding meetings with his counterpart, Union Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, whereas the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, will be holding bilateral with his counterpart, the Foreign Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar. So while there will be 2+2 engagements that will take place here, there will also be bilateral meetings between the respective leaders and the Secretary of State as well as Secretary of Defense of the US. So the itinerary is going to be jam-packed throughout the day until about 4 p.m. These hectic parleys and these meetings will continue.
Right, Akshay. Also, how's the Indo-US initiative of critical and emerging technology, which was launched in January this year, coming along?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, how's the Indo-US initiative on critical and emerging technology, which was launched in January this year, coming along?
Well, that is already on the agenda, but as far as the key issues of the 2+2 dialogue are concerned, they will be separately discussed, because the key issues remain the defense engagement and the engagement of diplomacy, especially when we talk about the ongoing crisis that in fact has become the priority for both of these countries, especially in the Middle East, while the spillover has already started taking place between after the war between, or rather the conflict between Israel and Hamas, and also the issues that the entire world is facing because of the ongoing Ukraine conflict as well. So these are going to be the key agendas as far as the critical technologies summit or rather meetings that are expected to take place in January. That is going to be on separate agenda, and that are going to be independently held as far as these two countries are concerned. And that is also one of the key issues that has been discussed between these two countries. May come up, may not come up, but as far as the key priorities are concerned, the Hamas-Israel conflict, the Ukraine war, Indo-Pacific region and the South China Sea region are going to be on the top of the agenda.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us and letting us know the updates from there, Akshay. Thank you. And moving on to updates from the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. The White House on Friday said that Israel has agreed to put in place 4-hour daily humanitarian pauses in its counter-terrorism operations in northern Gaza. The decision came after President Joe Biden pressed Israelis for a multi-day stoppage in the fighting in a bid to negotiate the release of hostages held by Hamas. White House announced the pauses and the opening of 2 humanitarian corridors in northern Gaza to allow civilians to seek safety from Israel's military operations.
There will be 2 humanitarian corridors allowing people to flee the areas of hostilities in the northern part of Gaza. The first such corridor, open between 4 and 5 hours every day for the past few days, has already enabled many thousands of people to reach safer areas. The second route along the coastal road will enable many more thousands to reach safer areas in the south. And of course, we are continuing to work closely with our Israeli partners to address and remain vigilant about efforts from Hamas to discourage and prevent civilians from fleeing this area.
Meanwhile, the United Nations has said that any halt to fighting between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip for humanitarian purposes would need to be coordinated with the United Nations.
Well, we've just seen the press reports not long ago. I mean, how any such halt in the fighting and how it would work for humanitarian purposes would need to be coordinated with the United Nations, especially on the issue of timings and location. And obviously, in order for this to be done safely for humanitarian purposes, it would have to be agreed with all parties to the conflict to be truly effective.
Also, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Thursday that his country does not seek to govern Gaza after its war against Hamas, even as the army will continue its offensive until Hamas is eradicated. In an interview with Fox News, Netanyahu said that a civilian government would need to take shape in Gaza, but Israel would make sure an attack like October 7th does not happen again. And still to come on DD India News Hour. The 6th edition of the Paris Peace Forum to kickstart to focus on peace-building efforts and support for fragile countries. Following Prime Minister Antonio Costa offering his resignation, Portugal's President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa calls for snap elections. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. And moving on, the 6th annual Paris Peace Forum will begin on Friday. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, Prime Minister of Georgia Irakli Garibashvili, Chairman of the Presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina Zelsko Kosmic, and President of Montenegro Jakov arrived at Elysee Palace on Thursday. French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed the leaders and held bilateral talks with several state leaders. The 6th edition of the Peace Forum will focus on peace-building efforts and support for fragile countries in a context of multi-crisis. It will also focus on the responsibility of major powers and emerging powers in peace-building. And the Paris Peace Forum 2023 comes against a challenging backdrop of geopolitical tensions, which makes collective action all the more urgent. Topics that are for discussion include the risk associated with technology, addressing inequality, climate change, and peace-building efforts. DD India's Rebecca Bandhan reports from Paris.
The theme for this year's Paris Peace Forum is seeking common ground in a world of rivalry. The aim of the annual event is to discuss global challenges, drive coordination and political momentum, and ultimately promote good governance. With the forum taking place against the backdrop of the Israel-Hamas conflict and Russia's war in Ukraine, talks about peace and security seem all the more relevant. Experts say the event is an important opportunity for dialogue on urgent issues, but that expectations need to be managed in terms of what the Paris Peace Forum can achieve.
I don't think that it's going to achieve a huge political breakthrough on any of the crises that we are seeing today, but it is certainly a valuable forum, particularly for the connections between civil society and governments, as well as both civil society and governments and the private sector.
The list of speakers at the Peace Forum includes presidents and prime ministers, Nobel laureates, and representatives from non-governmental organisations. French President Emmanuel Macron is part of the event, along with the head of the World Bank, Ajay Banga. Climate change is one of the global challenges that will come into sharp focus. Leading up to the main event, the Paris Peace Forum is hosting the One Planet Polar Summit, which is billing as the first international summit dedicated to poles and glaciers. Researchers and scientists from over 40 countries will meet in Paris to share their findings, as they warn of an urgent need to act to protect these fragile environments. The North and South Poles are central to the planet's climate regulation, And the state of the world's glaciers has an effect on communities and sea levels. Other topics that will be discussed at the Paris Peace Forum include cybersecurity and risks that come with the rise of artificial intelligence. The forum comes as challenges only seem to be mounting globally. Rebecca Bunden in Paris reporting for DD India.
And Ukrainian police officers went door-to-door in Ukraine's Kupiansk satellite town of Vuzlovy, trying to convince parents that they should escape the increasing Russian shelling of the area. The Ukrainian government has ordered the evacuation of children from parts of Kupiansk and surrounding areas under intense Russian shelling. Kupiansk remains one of the most active parts of the eastern front line, with Russian troops attempting to encircle and recapture the town. Some 270 children remained in town after the evacuation was ordered on the 3rd of November. And Russia's former president, Dmitry Medvedev, held a meeting with the Russian top military officials at the Alabino training ground near Moscow. Medvedev was shown the new military equipment. Further, Medvedev said over 410,000 Russians signed contracts to serve in the Russian army since the beginning of the year.
In total, since January 1st of this year, about 410,000 people have been hired for the contract. This work to attract military personnel to sign a contract will continue next year. The decision is taken by the President. This work is moving. The growth of military production, military special equipments, means of destruction increased manifold. Our enemy will have to take this into account.
Well, Portugal's President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa has dissolved parliament and called for snap elections. The announcement comes after Socialist Prime Minister Antonio Costa offered his resignation following the arrest of his chief of staff as part of an anti-corruption investigation that includes allegations of malfeasance and influence peddling. Speaking about meeting his consultative body, the Council of State, Rebelo said the government will remain in function for now, but the election was needed to provide clarity and direction to overcome an unexpected void that surprised and disturbed the Portuguese. And in Spain, protesters gathered outside the socialist headquarters in Madrid on Thursday. The protests are happening for the fourth night in a row after Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez secured the backing of Catalan separatist party Junts to form a government. A law granting amnesty to those prosecuted over Catalonia's attempt to secede from Spain was included in the deal. Sanchez's conservative opponents have accused him of putting the rule of law in Spain on the line for his own political gain. And a boat carrying 81 migrants arrived on the Spanish Canary island of El Hierro, including one person who had died and others in need of medical assistance. At least 5 migrants received assistance in a temporary hospital set up by the Red Cross at the port of La Restinga. Around 32,000 migrants have reached the Canary Islands from West Africa on fragile boats this year, higher than the previous record set in 2006. And moving on, Colombia's National Liberation Army guerrillas freed the father of Liverpool football star Luis Diaz after kidnapping him in the country's north nearly 2 weeks ago. Diaz and his wife, Selenis Marulanda, were taken hostage by armed men in the country's north nearly 2 weeks ago. Marulanda was freed within hours. The kidnapping of Luis Manuel Diaz has disrupted the government's peace talks with the ELN, which restarted last year in hopes of ending the group's part in Colombia's 60-year-old conflict. The two sides began a 6-month ceasefire in August. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. SpaceX launched a Dragon spacecraft to deliver supplies, food, equipment, and part of a laser communications relay system to the International Space Station. NASA's 29th commercial resupply services mission will include an atmospheric waves experiment, and NASA's integrated laser communication relay demonstration, low Earth orbit user modem, and amplifier terminal. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle attended the grand opening of a Navy SEALs care facility in San Diego, California. They toured the Warrior Fitness Program West Coast facility and met with the service members. Prince Harry, who served in the armed forces, has been an advocate for injured service members and created the Invictus Games in 2014. Surgeons in Northwestern Medicine in Chicago successfully saved the life of a 34-year-old David Boyer who had infected lungs after years of vaping and the flu. They removed his infected lungs, created an artificial lung and placed DD breast implants to keep his heart in place. Boyer is now recovering optimally in Chicago. Oscar-winning actor and singer Jared Leto scaled New York's iconic Empire State Building on Thursday to announce his band 30 Seconds to Mars World Tour. 30 Seconds to Mars Massive Seasons 2024 World Tour is the band's first headline tour in 5 years. It kicks off in Buenos Aires on March 15, 2024. And Battersea Power Station in London celebrated the inauguration of its famed seasonal ice rink with an evening for invited guests. The Glide Ice Rink is made up of 3 interconnected rinks and features a big Christmas tree as its centerpiece. Diwali, the festival of lights, is celebrated all across India. The Tea tribe community of Assam celebrates the festival in a unique way by performing the Jahali dance. DD India brings you an exclusive sneak peek into the Diwali celebrations by the Tea tribe community of Assam. Take a look.
Jahali dance is an unique dance of Tea tribe community of Assam, which is performed during Diwali. This dance form is performed during the first new moon of Kartik month. The dance form is a type of Bihu dance form called Husori, where the male artists perform by singing and dancing with the rhythmic tal of madol and cymbals.
चाय बागान लोगों का ये अक्टूबर महीने का असमीज काटी बिहू
The Jahali community visit place to place and perform Jahali dance during the first new moon night. With their dance, Jahali artists pray for a better harvest and health and prosperity of the Tea tribe community.
सबके घर में जाके ये नृत्य करता है और घर गृहस्थ ने जो दान बरंगनी देता है.
The Jahali artists visit all the houses of the village singing and dancing. They pray for a better harvest and health and prosperity of the Tea tribe community. The villagers welcome them with the new harvest and seek their blessings for peace and prosperity. We are here at the Jukai village, and this is how Diwali is celebrated among the Tea tribe community in Assam. They perform the Jahali dance with full gaiety and fervor to celebrate the upcoming winter. And this dance is performed where the village boys go from house to house celebrating the dance, and they give blessings to the villagers. With camera person Shantanu Subina Roy, DD India.
Well, still to come on DD India News Hour. Leaders of the US and China gear up for a probable meeting, their first face-to-face interaction in 12 months. Though the air quality across Delhi continues to be in the severe category, light rains bring some relief. And we tell you what's so special about Dhanteras and its celebrations. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. India is hosting U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin for the 5th 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue, talks to focus on India-U.S. security cooperation. U.S. says Israel agrees to 4-hour daily humanitarian pauses in northern Gaza to allow civilians to flee. Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel does not seek to govern Gaza, asserts fight will continue until Hamas is eradicated. Well, there's growing speculation the leaders of the United States and China are gearing up for a meeting, their first face-to-face interaction in 12 months. Although there's no confirmation of a get-together, lawmakers on Capitol Hill have drawn up a list of issues they want Joe Biden to bring up with Xi Jinping. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Well, all signs seem to suggest that this meeting will take place between President Biden and President Xi, and yet there is still no confirmation, neither from Washington nor Beijing, that the two leaders will actually get together in the same room. And yet it hasn't stopped US cable news networks here in the United States having various different panel discussions to look at what could be on the agenda. We've had think tanks here in Washington holding symposiums to look at a potential list of topics that the two men will want to take on. So, no confirmation yet, but we have seen Republicans in the House of Representatives push President Biden to challenge President Xi on a number of issues they feel should be raised. They also argue that by doing so, it would show that the US is serious about strengthening the relationship and taking it forward. In amongst that list of demands, there is stopping the flow of chemicals from China, chemicals that are used in the production of fentanyl that then leads to drug overdoses here in the US. They also want President Biden to bring up the topic of the pro-democracy campaigner Jimmy Lai, the Hong Kong pro-democracy campaigner who is still being held, and they want him to challenge President Xi on the escalation of confrontations in the South China Sea that we've seen in recent weeks. There's been plenty of diplomacy in recent weeks between the two countries, including Wang Yi, the foreign minister, coming here to Washington, D.C. We've got the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen meeting with the Chinese Vice Premier, and yet still that confirmation that the two presidents are going to be meeting is yet to come. We could see that in the coming days. Some suggestion that potentially Xi Jinping could come here to Washington for a meeting at the White House, or simply that the two men might have a brief chat on the sidelines of the APEC summit in San Francisco. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
And the overturning of Roe v. Wade in the United States last year was a major victory for anti-abortion groups. Since then, more than a dozen Republican-led states have banned the procedure. But the issue has now become the Achilles heel of the GOP. Elections earlier this week showed that abortion access is still motivating voters, even in conservative states. And as Tony Waterman explains, that's got Republicans worried with less than a year to go before the 2024 presidential elections.
This is now the second time abortion access has stunted the Republican Party. The first was in the midterms last year when an anticipated red wave was a mere splash. And now this week, voters soundly rebuked Republican efforts to limit abortion access, perhaps most notably in Ohio, a Republican-led, deeply conservative state. Voters there overwhelmingly voted to enshrine abortion rights into the state's constitution. In Virginia, voters outright rejected the Republican governor's efforts to shake the image of the GOP as abortion extremists. He has been pushing for a 15-week ban, or limit as he calls it, on abortion, but voters thwarted those efforts, giving Democrats control of both chambers in the state legislature. Republicans have known for a while that they need to shift their messaging on this issue, but anti-abortion policies are so deeply associated with the party that experts say it will be difficult to change voters' perceptions by next year. Plus, a number of GOP presidential candidates are anti-abortion. Indian American Vivek Ramaswamy, for example, calls abortion a form of murder, while Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a 6-week abortion ban. After Tuesday's weak showing, though, advisors are now reportedly telling Republican candidates at all levels to soften and modify their messaging, especially as a number of abortion rights groups in swing states like Arizona, Nevada, and Florida step up efforts to get abortion on the ballot in 2024. In Austin, Tony Waterman reporting for DD India.
Well, President Joe Biden threw his support behind the United Auto Workers' efforts to unionize employees at a car plant in Illinois. It was his first stop before heading to Chicago for a campaign reception. The president's visit focused on reopening an assembly plant that Stellantis closed back in March. In his address, Biden called for unionization across the auto industry and embraced the broader labor movement.
The auto companies were doing incredibly well. So auto workers should be doing incredibly well as well. You saved the auto industry, and they should step up for you. A simple proposition. And my administration announced $12 billion to convert the existing auto factories to manufacture electric vehicles if they're in the transition. Because I strongly believe when a company transitions to a new technology, they should retool, reboot, and rehire in the same factories with the same workers in the same community that existed there before.
Moving on, the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship has announced the first ever Indian Institute of Skill of India under Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur. DD India correspondent Kriti Vadhera has more on this.
Indian Institute of Skills Kanpur has informed 3 crucial partnerships with Indian Institute of Technology Kanpur, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited HAL and Dassault Aircraft Services India DASI to empower and prepare Indian youth, particularly in Uttar Pradesh. 5 new courses for aerospace and defense sectors will be launched initially. Addressing the stakeholders of industry, Minister of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Dharmendra Pradhan, said this collaboration marks a significant chapter towards shaping the future of skill development and empowering India's youth.
Our Nagpur factory is not only supplying the domestic Rafale industry, we are also supplying to the global market from Nagpur. Few days back I came to know about the same story from the Airbus. Airbus is exporting for its military and domestic aviation sector, its consumer, around $2 billion worth of commodity. But do more business with one condition, make in India. You put up your plant, you build more, you do more business in India.
These collaborations aim to provide quality training and access to new-age courses in aviation and defense, thereby meeting the skilled workforce needs of Uttar Pradesh, especially in the UP Defense Industrial Corridor.
This new Center of Excellence will be part of the National Deployment Plan for the Pan-India Training and Education Initiative, elaborated through the Dassault Skill Academy program. This plan objective is to fulfill the Indian aerospace industry requirements, enabling to help position India as a world reference in terms of competencies in aeronautics, in accordance with the Atmanirbhar Bharat policy.
The partnerships represent a unique collaboration between education, skilling, and leading industries, aligning with the National Education Policy 2020 and the vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to enhance training standards and build world-class skill training centers in India. Kriti Vadhera for DD India.
Well, India's Defence Ministry, along with PCTI and USI, which is India's oldest think tank, organized a military heritage tour for cadets and wives of martyrs to the Indian state of Punjab. One of the major sites was the Gurudwara or Sikh temple at Firozpur, built in the memory of the 21 Sikh soldiers of the British Indian Army who bravely fought over 10,000 Afghan tribals in the Battle of Saraghari in 1897.
तो जो सीओ था इनका एक लड़ाऊं का जो पैगाम दिया है हम एक एक जो हम
श्री गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी ने अपने वचनों में बोला है कि जो आदमी अपने देश अपनी भूमि के लिए अपना बलिदान देगा वो हज़ारों जन्मों तक जो है वो स्वर्ग का आनंद लेगा, और जो अपने देश से गद्दारी करेगा, अपनी भूमि के लिए मर मिटने के बजाय जान बचाने के लिए दौड़ जाएगा, उसको नरकों में जाना पड़ेगा। तो ये जो बातें हैं ये हमें प्रेरणा देती हैं।
And the group also visited the memorial of Indian freedom fighters Bhagat Singh, Rajguru and Sukhdev at Hossaini-Wala. They were enthralled by the beating of retreat ceremony at the Hossaini-Wala checkpost on the border with Pakistan. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Today is Dhanteras, which is the first day of Diwali festival. On this day, as per tradition, people invest and buy gold and silver in the form of jewelry and utensils. While Dhan means wealth, Teras means the 13th day of the moon cycle. Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, has wished countrymen on the occasion. Amid rising air pollution in the city, India's Delhi NCR received light rainfall in the wee hours on Friday, bringing a much-needed respite to the people. The national capital received light rainfall amid the Delhi government's ongoing efforts to implement the idea of artificial rain to curb air pollution. However, air quality across Delhi continues to be in the severe category, with average AQI around 460. The winter session of India's Parliament will commence from 4th of December and continue till 22nd of December. The session will be held in the new Parliament building and will have 15 sittings spread over 19 days. The Ethics Committee of India's lower chamber of the legislature on Thursday adopted a report recommending the expulsion of lawmaker Mahua Moitra from the Lok Sabha. Moitra has been held guilty of unethical conduct and contempt of the House for sharing her Lok Sabha log in credentials with unauthorized personnel. Acting on the commitment of the Indian Prime Minister's Neighbourhood First policy, New Delhi has sent a third tranche of more than 12 tons of earthquake relief to Nepal on Thursday. As a first responder, India has given a total of 33 tons of emergency relief material, including tents, sleeping bags and essential medical supplies to meet the urgent needs of the earthquake-affected families. And India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal participated in a Vocal for Local event in New Delhi aiming at reviving the Indian economy by promoting and encouraging the use of local products and services made in the country. He honoured sanitation workers and distributed sweets to them at the event. Ayushman Bharat, the flagship scheme of the Indian government, was launched to achieve the vision of universal health coverage. It is proving to be the boon for the poor, as they are now able to get medical treatment at elite hospitals, and that too free of cost. A 12-year-old girl from the northern Indian state of Bihar who got diagnosed with a hole in her heart got free treatment in a prominent hospital.
Nazmeen, a 12-year-old girl from Kishanganj in the Indian state of Bihar, was diagnosed with a hole in her heart. Her father, Muhammad Idris, a vegetable seller, could not afford the cost of her surgery, which was estimated to be between 3 and 4 lakh rupees. It was at this time that Ayushman Bharat Yojana came to rescue, and Nazmeen was able to get free surgery at AIIMS, New Delhi.
The doctor at AIIMS told us that we have to deposit an amount of 60,000. But if you're having an Ayushman card, then the surgery will be free of cost. We were having the card and my daughter got her surgery without any difficulty. We want to thank Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
My father showed me Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's poster and told me that all the patients' treatment cost is being paid by PM Modi.
So far, more than 5 crore people have received free treatment under the Ayushman Bharat Yojana. The scheme has been a lifeline for many marginalized.
5 years back, when there was no Ayushman Yojana, a lot of patients with same problem used to come. And now also the people come. But now, about 40% of the patients are getting treatment because of Ayushman Yojana.
The Ayushman Bharat Yojana is a shining example of how Indian government's initiatives help the poor and the needy. It is a scheme that has made a real difference in the lives of millions of people. Munmun Bhattacharya's report for DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. US stocks closed low on Thursday on Fed chair's skepticism on interest rates. After a shocking defeat against Australia, Afghanistan to now face semi-finalist South Africa.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana and on to business news now. US stocks closed low on Thursday, snapping the longest winning streaks for the Nasdaq and S&P 500 in 2 years. The S&P 500 lost 0.81% to 4,347.35, and the Nasdaq Composite dropped 0.94% to 13,521.45. Meanwhile, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.65% to 33,891.94. Treasury yields climbed after a disappointing auction of 30-year bonds. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said central bank officials are not confident interest rates are high enough to tame inflation. Meanwhile, Asian stocks fell to their lowest in a week on Friday, retreating from small gains made in the previous session. And on to sports now. New Zealand returned to winning ways at the World Cup following a fourth-match slump as they defeated Sri Lanka by 5 wickets at the M. Chinnaswamy Stadium on Thursday. Winning the toss, New Zealand opted to bowl first. Trent Boult and Tim Southee tore through the Sri Lankan top order. Then timely bowls from Stanner bundled out Lanka at 171. Opening batsmen Devon Convoy and Rachin Ravindra got fourth place to New Zealand's chase of 172 off to a fast start, and Daryl Mitchell got them close before they crossed the finish line in 23.2 overs. Victory left New Zealand on top points, 10 points, and in pole position to bag the last semi-final spot and join India, South Africa and Australia. Pakistan will now need to beat England by a massive margin to leapfrog New Zealand on the net run rate. And Afghanistan will face South Africa at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad on today. The semi-finalists South Africa are at number 2 in the points table with 12 points. Babuma and company lost their match against India by 243 runs, and they will now look to focus on their semi-final clash with Australia at Eden Gardens on 17th of November. Afghanistan, on the other hand, is number 6 with 8 points. With a horrendous run rate, Afghanistan lost their last match to Australia courtesy to Glenn Maxwell's double century that left the cricketing world awestruck. They're virtually out in the race to qualify because the 438-run victory they need against South Africa to push New Zealand out of fourth place on net run rate is impossible. India, South Africa and Australia have qualified for the semis, with New Zealand in solid position to take the final spot. And the 37th edition of National Games in Goa came to a close with a glittering ceremony at Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Indoor Stadium in Panaji on Thursday. The National Games began in Goa on 26th of October. More than 10,000 Indian athletes competed across 42 disciplines.
The 37th edition of National Games concluded in a glittering closing ceremony in Goa on Thursday. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, Chief Minister of Goa Pramod Sawant and Indian Olympic Association President P.T. Usha were among the host dignitaries who attended the closing ceremony. Maharashtra topped the medal tally with a total number of 228 medals, which also included 80 gold, 69 silver medals and 79 bronze medals. Services secured second position while Haryana grabbed the third position. The games, which were held from the 26th of October to 9th of November, witnessed the participation of more than 10,000 athletes from across the country who competed in over 43 sports disciplines across 28 venues. Addressing the gathering, Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar congratulated the athletes for putting up a spectacular performance.
I congratulate all the winners. But let me tell you, my young friends, every participant is a winner. This is mini India. Your 15 days must have been most memorable time of your life. You would have had the occasion to interact with your friends, north, south, east, west.
This time, coastal rowing was included for the first time. Beach handball also made a comeback in this edition. Along with this, the game of taekwondo also made a comeback in this edition of the National Games. Indian Olympic Association's President P.T. Usha, in her address, expressed her happiness on the successful conclusion of 37th edition of National Games.
This year's National Games have been truly exceptional in every sense. We witnessed a remarkable display of talent, dedication, and passion with a record-breaking number of 43 sports. Expansion of sporting disciplines not only demonstrate the growth and diversity of sports in our nation, but also offers our athletes an even broader stage to showcase their abilities.
The next edition of National Games will be held in Uttarakhand. With every passing year, India is witnessing a rapid growth in sporting landscape. On the other hand, the players are also enjoying the level of exposure that they are getting through events like National Games, Khelo India Games and various other government initiatives.
The 37th National Games in Goa came to an end with a glittering closing ceremony. Goa has set a high benchmark with hosting the biggest edition of the National Games successfully. Now it is the turn of Uttarakhand to host the next National Games and to set a new benchmark. With camera person Sumit Dhiman, this is Suchitra reporting for DD India from Goa.
And in the spirit of Swachh Diwali, Shubh Diwali, the Diwali Bazaar was organized by the Blind Relief Association in Delhi and attracted visitors from all corners of Delhi and beyond. The event provides a platform for the visually impaired trainees at the association to demonstrate their skills. DD India correspondent Siddharth Bharadwaj has more.
We're in India's capital, Delhi, and it's festive season here. It's Diwali. It's the festival of lights, joy, and happiness. Stay with us as we bring you more.
These adept fingers have been molding wax into Diwali candles. Harish Kumar himself has not been able to witness Diwali festivities, but that has not stopped him from celebrating the festival with his efforts. Harish Kumar is making candles for over 39 years now.
To make these candles, first we clean the container and add some oil to it. After that, we put thread, followed by slightly warm wax.
Diwali is just round the corner. The shopping malls and markets are once again both busy and brighter. Amidst these Diwali festivities, a unique celebration is unfolding in the Diwali Bazaar, organized by the Blind Relief Association, Delhi.
The Blind Relief Association organizes this annual Diwali Bazaar to generate fund, and it supports us for running the institution. Primarily, our basic focus is that in the vocational trainees, we make products. During the skilling program, we make products, various products like paper bags, envelopes, sewing products, and also candles.
Shopping is more of an adventure, and the excitement of the shoppers is all the more palpable. People are happy that their Diwali shopping is lighting up lives of many.
The main reason why we come to this Mela is because we know that every year whenever we come, we are sure that we're going to get good stuff. And we know that we're coming back for the repeat, people, the stalls who are here. And also it's for a good cause.
Yeah, so the cause is good, the stuff is very good, and that is why we are just buying everything from here. We are trying to pick up the decoration and everything for this year.
Diwali teaches us that light, joy and connection go beyond what meets the eye. And the true beauty of Diwali lies in the shared moments, laughter and the traditions that unite us all. With camera person Ashish Sharma, this is Siddharth Bharadwaj for DD India, New Delhi.
Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.